Cool, awesome. My name's Dave Carberry. Company's called Enradius. We do a lot of geo-targeting and geo-marketing. Not here to sell. So what I'd like to do, as we get some people coming in too, we're going to talk about mobile's Mojo. And one of the things that I heard a lot in the sessions past couple of days is app usage. Okay? So more and more people are doing apps, but what I'd like to do is something unique and fun and different because we don't have hundreds of people in here. It's intimate. So if we could go around the room and everybody just start yelling. We'll start down here with Cecil. We'll figure out like where you're from, or say your name and your favorite app. Let's do that.
Cecil and
Facebook.
Facebook? Facebook. Joseph. YouTube. YouTube. Snapchat.
Mike. Over here.
Instagram.
Instagram.
Chris,
Facebook.
Steve,
Facebook.
Aaron, Untapped, the beer app.
Untapped the beer app. Wait. Baltimore? Ellicott City? There's one in Ellicott City, Baltimore called Untapped.
Okay.
It's a beer app there. It's interesting. Ladies?
Kayla, Facebook.
Facebook.
Victoria,
LinkedIn.
Darwin, the GHIN, handicap app.
Okay. Oh, really? Cool.
Neil, Facebook.
Facebook.
Steve, YouTube.
YouTube.
Brittany, Facebook,
Facebook.
Mike, Facebook.
Facebook.
Karen, Messenger,
Okay.
Laura, Facebook.
Facebook. ESPN. Okay. Different. Twitter. Okay, there's the first one.
I'm just going back and forth between multiple browsers. I'm just a web developer.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Basecamp? I like Basecamp. Haven't heard that. Instagram? Facebook? YouTube? Snapchat? Actually, we'll come over here. Instagram? Oh, what's your favorite app? Facebook? Facebook? Instagram. Uber. That's a good one. Facebook. Okay. YouTube. Pinterest. Got one? Favorite app? Facebook? Snapchat? Okay. Back here? Yeah, your favorite app? YouTube? Okay. What is it? IG. Oh, okay. Yeah, I should know that. Snapchat. Okay, cool, awesome. So that gives you guys kind of an idea of like what apps everybody's using right now. And you talk about like the mojo of mobile and what's happening. Things are changing quickly. And I don't know if you've listened to some of the different things that were happening yesterday with Facebook and Google and what they had been talking about getting rid of some of the cookie side of it. But apps is where it's going. More people are spending more time with your apps than anything else. And I'm going to kind of get into that. What I also want to do today is, I only have like 30 some slides, so I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. And then that way we can do some more brainstorming because it's the last session and I don't want to have myself sit up here and talk all the time because I think there's a lot of brains in this room, more so than me. So that's a good thing. But defining Mojo, we're going to go through that. What's changing, defining your Mojo and your geo, leveraging the data, and then real-time targeting. So when you guys think of Mojo, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Momentum. Austin Powers. There we go. So I think of Austin Powers when you think of Mojo. But I have kids, and my daughter, when she was younger, she would watch Powerpuff Girls. Do you guys know this guy? Mojo Jojo? Yeah? No? See, some do, some don't. So that's the difference. You think about these two audiences, and Cindy was supposed to speak with me today, Cindy Carson, so she came up with the whole Mojo idea and kind of stuck me with this, so I had to kind of make up something. And this is what I came up with. So Facebook, Google, Instagram, ABC, NBC, CBS, brand loyalty, that's Austin's Mojo. You think about like the different audiences and the generations and what you're doing and what your habits are. I mean, you're going in and you're using Facebook. You heard it around the room. I mean, you guys just admitted to what you're doing for apps and where you're looking. But it's also brand loyalty. So what are you doing currently with those programs that you're using and the different apps that you're using? And what are you watching? Mojo Jojo, it's the younger generation. Heard a couple Snapchats. Snapchat's coming into play. Google and Facebook right now own the marketplace, without a doubt. That's where most of the media is going. But you've got Twitter, and it's the audience that's actually lacking the loyalty side of it. And I think about my son, who's 14. He plays different games. As a matter of fact, he plays this game that he just got me interested in. It's called Balls, and I like the app, but I thought it was kind of weird to say I like balls in the room. So, but I just said it, didn't I? So what we're going to do is go through what's happening in the marketplace right now. You guys have heard this all throughout the conference. So mobile phone ownership over time, it's growing. So vast majority of Americans, 95%, have a cell phone, 77% smartphone-wise. So it's going to keep going that way. And I think somebody mentioned it yesterday. It's like we've got three different devices. I think it was Facebook, actually, Gabrielle, where the traffic is. So text is still leading the way. It's an interesting slide. This comes from eMarketer. I don't know if you guys use it at all. But when you take a look at what's happening in the marketplace, so Snapchat's there, Google search, your phone's camera is also one of the best places too that's being utilized. And hence it goes back to all the apps that you use for just capturing your life, what you're doing. How many people actually captured that you're here today and put it up online? Anybody? No? You guys awake? It's the last session. And then Facebook, of course. So you can kind of see where everybody's sitting and what they're doing. In Generation Z, mobile is really the new prime time. So I don't know if you guys, with kids, what they're doing. My son sits in a room and he watches his own device. He doesn't watch television. It's kind of broken off from the TV side. And one of the things that, working with different businesses, the ad spend is still going to the TV side. But how are they reaching what's going to happen to the next generation? Teens are shifting from texting to messaging apps. One of the apps that we use in the office is Slack. Love Slack. Slack is such a great communication tool, so we pull away from email side. You guys use it? How do you guys use it? For the service side? That's awesome. Anybody else? I saw a head.
Familiar with it because a lot of independent operators that have got deployed teams, they'll use Slack. That way they can collaborate across time zones, across geographies. It works well with distributed teams.
And for the service side, I think it's great, especially if you have to go across the building. So when you're talking just staffer to staffer, email just gets so jammed up. So if there's a way to integrate it. And so we actually integrate it into our CRM as well. So we use Pipedrive as part of it. And then we also utilize something called Trello for our ops team. So we flip those and have this as Slack as really the communication tool in between it. So, and it allows for salespeople to use apps like that too. So I think if you can find app-based CRM programs that make sense as well, I mean that's actually beneficial.
Is there anybody using WhatsApp to communicate between each other?
I don't know. Anybody here? Really? How do you guys do it?
Sales team with managers, floor managers, all together. So when we need to message something quick, instead of waiting for the next meeting, they also get their schedule there, and they get most of the information there.
Okay. You guys should talk.
Well, I use that for the sales department, but Slack is for service.
Okay, gotcha. So SMS, we talked about texting. Texting's still great to utilize. So if you can get offers out the door, text for pricing, helpful car care tips, special sales incentives, give them something for free. A client that we work with actually, they will put a coffee mug on their map, on their website. So if somebody takes the time to actually go and look for directions on their website, there's a free mug there. So it's like they'll show up and say, hey, I want my free mug because but you're driving somebody to the store. So, and that's not even a car guy. That's actually a ski guy. So it's one of those things where there's different ideas of things that you can utilize for free incentives. And sometimes, for the SMS side of it, people are still using it. So it's one of the most used areas. Demographic audiences. This is kind of an interesting piece too. If you take a look at mobile only, and this is from ComScore, great data where you've got right here, desktop only, age 55 plus. You can see from December 2013 to the 15th, it's actually gone down because they've gone to more of a multi-platform. But if you take a look at what's happening over here in this guy, age 18 to 34, like the mobile only is right there. So more and more people are just using mobile only as part of their communication side of it. So you still have that multi-platform, but less so much for desktop only. I mean, you can see that there's only 3% desktop only. So that's a big shift in what's happening. Is there any questions? Nope, okay. Where time spent? 90% of the time, mobile is on apps. So this is a great slide. So you can see more and more app usage happening, games, Chrome, Safari, etc. Productivity, which could be Slack. You guys got that? Where the money's going. So when you think of your budget allocation and what you're doing and how you're spending money, like how much money are you pushing towards your mobile website and to your mobile apps? So more and more mobile websites are actually losing time spent on those, but at the same time, you know, it's communities that are building a better app, whether it's like, I don't know, a newspaper app. They're pushing stuff through Facebook to actually drive to the newspaper app. So people still go to mobile web to get their information and news, but you'll see that there's more and more mobility to go over to the app side. And shift in ad spend. Are you guys doing a lot this year to change how you're spending? Like where, if I can get maybe some volunteers, like how much have you shifted over to mobile? Anybody? Everything to mobile? Wow.
We ramped up from 2,500 on our website going mobile, the easy process, where you can submit a lead, answer it, everything's done.
Okay. Now have you switched, like do you still do TV, radio? Like it's 100%, wow.
Yeah, we've cut in and out, we strictly just the digital.
Okay.
When the pretty lady comes in and sells a GM on the newspaper or the magazine, it's hard to get away from. Because she comes in and just keeps talking. But other than that, most of the stuff is all completely, all digital.
Wow. Cool. Google Shift. So obviously we've talked about mobile first. It depends on your budget. It really depends on your budget and what you're looking to do and how you use TV. I think there should be shifts, and I think you should have an even shift on it, because television's still brand side, but there is going to be a lot more in the shifting of what's happening. So yes, push more to digital. I don't know if 100% would totally make sense, but you know, it depends on how much you're spending and who you're going after and the actual brand and make. I mean, if you're going after Subaru specifically, I mean, it depends on what their habits are. So that might be their lifestyle and habit that you want to go directly after that audience and just crush them with frequency. So it really depends. So Google, with their mobile first, what they've done is they've dropped the right rail. So you can see how they've been shifting everything they're doing to make sure it's all mobile. Mobile-friendly website tool, mobile-first indexing. So now they index your website based off of mobile. Cookie shift from that customer match. And some of the things, one of the things that they just did recently, I don't know if you guys know this, because I just had heard about it, but Twitter had a company called Fabric, I think. And Fabric basically has like an SDK that's built into every one of pretty much every app that's out there. So Google went and purchased that from Twitter just recently. I don't know if anybody knows about that, or so from that cookie shift side of it, that's where you'll see more and more intertwining into the app world. So Google has you in the app side, but they're getting the data. So that helps you as a business be able to collect more information, where that person is GPS-wise, are they in your store, what's happening with that, and are they coming to you? And I think yesterday Google had talked about nav, so Waze, and looking for Google Map to be able to define a customer after they've clicked into an ad, that you can actually determine whether or not that person's been in your store or not for store count. So that way you don't have to deal with like the beacon side of it, because beacon ties in with the app and somebody coming into your store and placing multiple beacons around. But Google's trying to find a workaround for that side of it. Make sense? Questions? Well, you can get it from other companies too. It's not just Facebook, but it's tied into if you've got an app or like your service app that you might put in.
I signed up for that Facebook where you set in your store, you kind of tell the market.
Mhm.
Anybody use that?
I don't. I really don't. But I know they have been tying into it. I know there's like where I am, got a grocery store who has the grocery app tied in. And instead of the shelf talkers, so you know how the talkers come out and when you walk by the aisle, they spit you out a coupon. Well, what they're doing now is I think it's a company called Aisle 411. They're mapping out all of the products within the store. So you know where the coffee is, you know where the peas are, and then up above you, they've got the beacons and the fluorescent lights. So as you're walking through, they know exactly in the store where you are. So they can zip you off a little note, hey, peas are on sale. So some wild stuff. I don't know if you guys use Think with Google at all, but there's a great click-through to here, and it's a guide about winning shift to mobile download on Think. So I would recommend that. And Facebook shift. So I thought this was an interesting statistic too. So mobile only, monthly active users. So you can see how like from quarter to quarter, they've just been growing and exploding for mobile. So that's another piece why it's important to be tied into Facebook. And you heard the majority of people in here actually said that's their favorite app. And what they've done is they've had a huge revenue spike. So they keep going up. They've done the app developer integration. So I talked about the SDK placement a little bit. Facebook Live. You see more and more of the videos that people are posting up, whether it's somebody's on their vacation, whether it's a conference, ad video, and then testing the phrase near me. So like Google's doing, so when you go into Google to do a Google search, you'll see what's near me. And that's something that Google wants to find more for the GPS side of it, to figure out where you are. And it's smart searching, so you'll be able to put your location data in there and actually get closer to the point. Facebook, I believe, is testing that out as well. And then they also went in and they've done camera effect stories, Facebook Direct to compete with Snap. So, I mean, that's happened in the last few weeks. So all that shift is occurring. And then I don't know if you guys have ever played with Facebook Places. So it was something that they had like 2007, 2008, it disappeared. But then if you go to that, it's back. So you can kind of see where your friends have been, you can stalk them a little bit. It's pretty cool. Percent of time spent in media versus advertising spend. So this slide's a little bit older, 2014, but it shows you like where mobile spend was versus TV, radio, and you could see that there was a huge opportunity in mobile. And one of the things that we're from Baltimore, we're based in Baltimore, I don't see a lot of auto ads at all. You see them back to back on every television show. I mean, one after the other, but I don't see it in my Facebook feed. I don't know if you guys have the same thing, or how many people are using Facebook video right now to advertise? Just show of hands real quick. I mean, that's not a lot. If you consider this is the industry that you're in, how many use television advertising? Okay. So it looked kind of even maybe, but I think there was more TV still out there. So I think there's a huge opportunity, and Facebook even talked about that yesterday, in regards to what you can do for video side of it. And they're changing some of their ad formats too to actually make it better for you as an advertiser to do that. TV versus digital ad spending, I thought this was interesting too. So All eMarketer data, so digital you can see, just like Cecil was saying, they're spending, more and more people are spending more on digital than they are in national TV.
Is that national TV or national and regional?
Let's see what it says here. It's spot, cable, any advertising that appears on desktop, laptop. So yeah, it's broadcast TV, network, syndication, spot. Sure. And my background, just so you guys know, I used to run the Howard Stern station in Baltimore. So I had some fun stuff with like Howard going to his Private Parts movie with Donald Trump like 4 rows in front of me. But yeah, so we were a radio station that was just strictly selling Howard in the marketplace, only AM station. And then I went to television side, and then I went to web development side, and then AOL, ad.com. So I've been kind of all through the ringer with it. I got back into TV and to radio, and I just saw what radio stations were doing. Basically, like you've got Hearst, Scripps, all the majors, they've been losing money in television advertising and radio advertising. So now they're going out and selling programmatic, and they're selling services. And they just mark it up like 2 or 3 times, and it frustrated me. So I didn't want my clients having to pay so much more exorbitant money. So I went out and just started something to really help businesses navigate this stuff. Acura has a great success stories. So I don't know if you guys use the tools for automotive marketers, but within Facebook, there's enough information that you can get. So I don't know if you've gone in and played around with it, but just do a search for automotive marketers. So there's great tools. So, questions? Defining your geo. So there's been a lot of talk about the customer matching. Where are your sales coming from? Define your client zips. Define your brand. Define what your sales leads are in all those zips. Do your truck zips, do they differ from what you're doing? And this actually goes back to the last presenter because he had a different model and methodology for his RAV4s. So what happens with what you're doing with your Volkswagen? I mean, are you going after different audience segments and pulling down the data and then matching it back up to Facebook and Google? Are you guys doing that? Anybody doing that specifically? Are you? Who wants to be doing it? I mean, it makes sense. It's if you've got historical data of people that have purchased and where they've purchased from, pull that information, pull their zips, pull their addresses, and upload them in and find a customer match on Facebook and Google and market to them. And basically, I don't know if you guys use Google Analytics. I know sometimes you're handcuffed because you've got providers that you have to use, and sometimes you can't use your own for your own website. But there's a search console within the back of Google Analytics that you can go and turn on to get so much information to figure out where customers are coming from, just from the statistics. So Google Analytics is a great way to do it. But Search Console is so important. And the other piece, too, is the retargeting pixel. I know they had talked about it yesterday with Facebook and Google. Google, within their analytics side, you can actually find affinity groups. So like we work with some radio stations, as a matter of fact, where we pixel their data and their website, and we put it there and we grab all the information. So let's say a WYPR is an NPR station in Baltimore we work with. We know what that NPR listener is doing over the next 30 days, 60 days. So that affinity group's super, super important because we can see their habits. So as a quirky example in a brainstorm, like let's say you know that this audience has been looking for pre-K schoolers, or it depends on the time of the year, but they've been looking for pre-K to 12 for their family. You can see that. You can see are they going on vacation? Are they looking up skiing? So you might want to figure out audience levels to go after. Let's go after skiers. Let's geo-target a mountain range, or let's do a fun promotion with the private schools in town. How do we get the attention of those parents that are looking for just the high line? So, any thoughts to that? Brainstorms? Fun stuff that you guys have done? Yes, no? Come on, it's the last session. Come on. IP testing tool. So I know sometimes the concern is how accurate is geo-targeting. Cellular GPS, it's off of the cell towers. IP for desktop, this is a great little tool that you can use. What's my IP address? It's an IP lookup. So, I did this when I was back home, and you can see it actually targeted me in Baltimore. Really depends on what systems you're using, but usually GPS is really funky. So your IP, if you try that on a phone, you'll see it's all over the place. So here's the Search Console that I was talking about. So turn it on if it's not on there. You can get location-based. So for example, this is a website, and you can find out whether or not they're coming in from Edgewater, Annapolis. You can get really granular data in your Search Console if it's turned on. Sometimes marketers just don't turn it on. Leveraging that data. So use your CRM data. Match back to Google, as I had mentioned. Use the ad networks to do it. Define your audiences. Truck zips. Didn't that slide already come up there? I think we had that twice. And then there's real-time targeting, too. So because Google, Facebook, apps are selling your data. Like, how do you think Tinder makes money? How do you think Foursquare makes money? It's all about your data. What are you doing on those apps? They're tracking you. They're tracking where you are, what you're doing. So if you were on a golf course last week, if somebody walked into your dealership and they are tracking and they know exactly what your lat launch is, well, then they bucket you into the group that you're in. So these are just some of the metrics and buckets of audiences that we can grab, that we layer, and they pull it from like Blue Kai, Exalate, you name it, it's out there. So can you guys see this? Okay. Domestic luxury, domestic vehicle, eco-friendly, whether their vehicle purchase segments were 0 to 6 months, new Honda Pilot, new Hyundai, new luxury car. There's so many in-market data segments that you can get and acquire that it's a really great way to limit your marketing dollars. If you have limited marketing dollars, go right after some of these auto segments so that you know fit within what you're doing. We had somebody we were working with, and one of the issues becomes how other companies set up campaigns. So for Baltimore, this is the DMA. So if you're in a group that targets the LMA, DMA, they might put you in an area that's way too big. I mean, this radius goes well beyond, like if somebody's up north, nobody's gonna travel typically 60, 70 miles, because I'm sure there's a couple dealers in between. So when you're doing the marketing, make sure that you're watching out what DMA you're doing. So it's always better to look at refined targeting. So that's a 20-mile radius. And you could see that other radius before was 50, 60 miles. So it depends on your customers. Are they traveling that far? If they're traveling that far, great. DMA works. But if not, and you really want to hone in, do it closer to the circle, closer to where you are. Right time targeting. So reach auto intenders who have visited local dealers in the last 7 days. You can do that, as I had mentioned. Heavy up on biddings and buys on display and search terms in your zips. Also look at Snapchat geofilter. I don't know, have you guys played with Snapchat and their geofilters at all? What do you think?
One example was actually here in Baltimore, trying to do a Ravens game.
Okay.
Have something around the stadium itself, and the team itself bought out the space. So it's kind of like you're buying on a rent basis for like an hour. You can do it in an hour increments. But
it's gotten expensive too.
it doesn't have to be.
Right.
I mean, you can key in on it, but not necessarily the participation we're looking for.
Okay. And you tried it too?
No, I didn't. We had a grand opening.
Nothing. Yeah, I don't think it's there yet. It's one of those things where you do have to compete if somebody else buys it out for that, and you can try it. I know people have tried it, and I've heard mixed reviews on it. But it depends on how big of a geo that you're trying to push that filter to. And it can get expensive depending upon the population, where you are in that core. So
The square feet also will factor in.
yeah, definitely. And you can go into Snapchat and build your own tool. So Jim's Toyota, whatever. I mean, if you wanted to go in and create it, you can. You can do it yourself. So Google, think with Google again, awesome. Go there. It's got a ton of information. So when they're on the lot, and I've heard this a lot too from the dealers, that people are actually just going in and searching price comparison. So they'll actually sit there at a desk with their phone, and they're going in and just figuring out where the best prices are. One of the things that you can do is conquest your own dealership. It's more like an insurance. So when they do see an ad that pops up, maybe it's a service ad, maybe it's somewhere else, that you can kind of get them back to you. Because if your competitors are coming in to conquest, and I've heard a couple other people talking about it, they can hit your zone too. So what's happening too is you've got all this bidding that's occurring. So it's also pushing the prices up for the display ads that are out there. So the more and more people that are buying display, it's going to get a little more expensive because you're buying the inventory and it's really targeted in those areas for the geofence. Questions? Okay. Audience target again. So this is just another example of the audience intenders, luxury, local pickup, SUVs. But this is all real-time data. So this is an area where if somebody's looking for parts and search behaviors for part side of it, you can go in and really focus on the search piece of it and running ads to the parts department and pushing that as well. And then the last thing, so think ahead of the curve. Think of what's happening in media. I mean, there's a big transition. There's a shift. So I cut my cable off. I probably should keep it because I should see the ads. But I cut it off. I moved recently, decided I'm going to watch everything through PlayStation. That's what you do too? Really? Okay. I talked to it's a Sony product. So Sony has their own network. So they've got Crackle also, but they're buying different programs to really push the Crackle and the View guys. So now you've got about I think it's like 500,000, 500,000 people that are subscribers now. That's it. It's not a lot. But they are offering local advertising. So you can go in and you can buy Geo on PlayStation. And that's going to keep growing. As more and more people find out about it, you're going to see that. Sling, Hulu, same thing. Has anybody tried Hulu advertising? No? No. There's minimum. So, I mean, you've got to make sure that there's enough viewership and mins in the area. But, like, I know with PlayStation, it's like a $25,000 buy-in right now. So, per month. So, it's super, super expensive. But eventually, and Snapchat's the same way. Snapchat's super, super expensive. But just like Facebook didn't have the granularity that it needed to in the beginning to really push that out, and they didn't have enough users. But it's changed. It's changed completely. So now all of a sudden Facebook is king of the hill with what they're doing. But some of these guys, you have to keep a lookout for it because like my son doesn't watch television. So what happens to the local news? What happens to like some of these local things that people have been typically spending money on? So you just have to make sure that when you're looking in the future to what your ad dollars are doing, look to these products. And I would definitely make sure that you're looking at putting a lot of that money towards Google and Facebook. I mean, they are the kings of what's happening now. So, well, that's all I got. Yeah, baby. Last one, come on. You guys have any questions, brainstorming? Thank you. Who's got shorts on? Who's ready to go to the beach? You're ready. You could tell like how everything changed out. First day I was here, everybody was like this. And now everybody's like, yeah, shirts, who cares? So, questions, anybody?
I didn't. Have you ever had anybody get specific on Facebook marketing? So like, what I think about doing when I get back is specifically targeting all our biggest competitors and hitting their car lot specifically and just get specific with the ad campaign. So like, are you on the showroom right now? If you buy a car, give us a shot. Guarantee to be any good.
Yeah. Well, and that's a strategy that you could do and go after the other lots. They might see you and get a little pissed. But other things that you do, think creatively. So let's say graduations are coming up. and you want to push parents on getting that car for the kid, why not geofence all the high schools in the area? Like, we do that with some community colleges. Like, we'll go in and we geofence every one of the high schools that are around. Hit those up. If you've got an audience level that really, we can hit Cricket wireless users. If you're looking for somebody that's got a low credit, let's go after Cricket, or let's go after quick serve restaurants. Let's find out where people are and go after areas where they are based off of their economic side of it. And if they're in certain areas but the home ownership, like these houses are worth $1 million homes and you want to go after the cars, then there's not many volume of the people that are around there, but constantly just put a little money every month and go after that. So everybody's competing for that same car in those regions and pushing after the populations, but you might want to think about it differently and how you're doing geo. So just a thought. So.
Obviously, loading in zip codes is garbage in, garbage out. The zips may have performed in the past, doesn't mean they will in the future. I hear about IP level targeting as a way to maybe cut down on wasteful spend. So if IP targeting is available, are you a proponent of that?
For us, customer matching is the best. Like, email addresses are really the best way to do it, but IP you can target too. I think if you're looking at lookalikes and you're looking at just level zip side of it, and even they were talking about it yesterday, I think it was Scott that had mentioned the workaround for that mile. You could do kilometers on Facebook for marketing and just take it half. I always think a bigger net, because when you're looking at the IP side of it, it's not as much reach that you're doing. So, like, first specifically, what are you trying to do?
I've just heard different schools of thought, as far as, IP is directing it right into the home, so you can hit someone in all of their bedrooms, on all of their devices.
Yeah, but you can also do that with cross-device. So if somebody's clicking on an ad and you've retargeted them and you've found out where they are and they're going back into the home, the probability and probabilistic is like 85, 95%. So you're matching back anyway because you've got your cross-devicing side. So they know that you've connected to that Wi-Fi unit and, oh, these are the devices. Oh, and by the way, this is the person that's probably in their teens versus the person that's over there in their 60s because of their habits. So all that data is out there. So I think ideally, yes, it works, but I think there's a mixture of it that you could do. So, cool. Anybody else?
Targeting. I feel like there's so many different ways, and I'm unsure. Can you retarget from a search?
No. There are tools out there that you can use specifically. Google is starting to do more. They had cut it off at one point because there were companies out there like Magnetic and other fraud types of businesses that were going in and scraping the Google data. And from what I understand, like those tools, the data, there's just so much fraud piece of it. So search is only defined within, I think, like when you're going to Facebook and looking for those specific products, and then they match back on those audience levels. But typically with the retargeting pixel, that's just firing when somebody's going in and getting hit with that retarget. So I don't know. Does anybody else know? That actually is a good question for the room. Would you know?
Say RLSA or remarketing for search, it does allow you to
Yes.
a bid adjustment, so if someone redoes a search later on, you could maybe be a little more aggressive, as people are going to conduct a few searches before they commit to remarketing for search.
But through the Google side of it, so
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So, and then the other way of retargeting, you're saying that would be Facebook or any other way?
Well, there's ad networks out there. So like we'll use multiple ad networks to push the retarget side of it. Google's good. Their inventory is everywhere, but at the same time, you might have a tough time getting on some of the higher priority sites. They're a little more expensive. So what we do is work with clients to find top priority sites that just make more sense, because the click-through rates sometimes on Google and ad choices isn't that great, and you're just spraying and praying, I think, in some cases. So, but yeah, you can use other ad networks to do it too. So.
develop a CRM list of email addresses for customer match. It seems to, I'll admit as an agency, I'm working with a dealer to try and get that list regularly. We depend on the dealership, to give us a fresh list so that we're not hitting the same people over the head, for more than 30 days.
Incentives, ideas, giveaways for people to sign up. Are you asking specifically if the dealer will send that to you on a regular and doing it?
What's the easiest way for a dealer to, extract that email list and keep it fresh? I know it's an in-store process, but is there anything to make that any easier?
It depends on what the dealer has on their end.
If you got any common CRM, you're going to get that in Excel. Very
If they'll let you have access to it and you can pull it down yourself. So, yeah.
What are your thoughts related to mobile measure? Because, unless you play big and you have tools like Adobe Audience Manager, and how do you tackle the problem of the accidental clicks and the fact that consumers have the blinders on and, we're saturated with mobile ads now. So, in your perspective, how have you measured the effectiveness of mobile advertising?
It depends client to client and what they're doing in the ad itself too. I mean, it comes back down to creative. Like, how good is that creative? And you do have a lot of fat finger stuff happening. I mean, there's a lot of waste that occurs because of how the app might be set up and what's happening with it. It's just, again, it's tough because I know we talk about, like, view through was a big discussion that occurred through, as well as the last click attribution. And unfortunately, it's a brand piece of it too. So if somebody is playing Words with Friends, are they seeing that? And how often are they seeing it? And is it necessarily the click that drove that? Was it the search? Because they saw it so many times for the frequency. So how do you give that attribution? I don't know. It's again, it goes back to television and radio. How do you give the attribution back to radio? Radio stations and TV stations, they pull and shy away from specific messages. Hey, you heard this out on WKZY, put that into your landing page. So put your auto dealership /KZY. They don't want to do that because they don't want to show that it didn't really work if somebody's not doing it. So it really depends upon how that attribution is coming through on your end and what you're doing. And there's like some software guys that are out there that I saw at the show that can match back to the TV side, and it's within 5 minutes of the television ad showing. But it's kind of difficult sometimes. And I think Google, watch what's happening with their nav stuff that's coming up. I mean, I think that's really going to be an interesting product. If there's enough volume coming to your store, you can see that, that was driven in from a navigation, or if that was driven in. So, but again, it comes back to volume. So I don't know how big it needs to be for that. So, cool. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it.